Good evening.
Hi, Bob.
How are you, Crystal?
I am good. I'm tired, but I'm good. How are you?
Doing all right.
Excellent. Why? Come here. Here's our munchkin.
Let's see. Oh, hey, cutie.
This is Sophia.
Oh, is she wise?
Sometimes she's getting old, so she's not quite as wise as in the old days. Oh. She's a love bug, though. All right, you have to get down because Meme's gonna paint. You know what? I should put the card table back up. You know why? Put it on that. I could put it closer and we could see it. Still say we could. And by the time we figure this all out, we'll be back to going to church. Yeah, it'll be okay. Did you know that Bob put on a thing? And Patty was in it. Oh, okay. No. Cousin Patty. Oh. Was on. I did not. Yeah, you have to. What it is. What was that called? It was something like 6 years ago or something. In the old days. All right, let's try that. There. Do you see it better now, buddy? Yeah. Okay. Ding dong. Ding dong.
Hey. All right, folks are coming in. We got 3 on Facebook and several out here. I'll be right with you. I'm just getting a couple of things together and we'll get started. Oh, I'm going the wrong way here.
Like a little shower and everything. Doesn't matter. I usually use 2 or 3 of them. Hi, Sally. Hey, Laura. Hi, Sally. Hi, Crystal. Hi, Erin. You showed me what we were doing earlier. The Chinese lantern.
Okay.
Or hand them to me. Thank you. We have a few paintbrushes, huh? Yeah, just a few. You didn't buy them a little at a time? Or? Yeah. Oh, I had them for craft room. Oh, yeah, that's right. Craft room.
Okay. Oh, we've gone down on this one. Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna put my brace on too, because that might be a little helpful too this week. I could have done last week. Put those over by Nathaniel's.
So how is everybody doing tonight?
Very well.
Oh. You folks will have to hold with me for just a second. I'm having issues with Zoom over here on this side. And then we're going to get started. So sorry. I think we may be back. I think we may almost be back. Now we may almost all be back. There we go. Sorry about that. Having some technical issues with Zoom. And it decided to update just as we were getting started. Of course, right?
Always.
So, good evening. It's good to see you all, and we're gonna paint tonight. Where's my?
I'm having a hard time hearing you. It's real itchy.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but it's breaking up, and so's the video.
Aha.
Do
Interesting.
you have more than one thing running on your Wi-Fi right now?
No. Well, I'm not. I actually, what I did was I got a cable, and I'm actually hooked up by Ethernet now.
Okay. Huh.
So I'm not sure. Let me see. Um, I'm gonna pull the cable and see if that does anything to make it better. Okay, I'm now on just with Wi-Fi, but I'm hearing gravel.
I wonder if it's just Wi-Fi tonight in general.
Well, yeah, I mean there could be interference in the.
What if we all turn off our microphones except for you? I don't know how to do that.
I'm taking care of it. How's that? There we go. Okay. So, yeah, so now I can't hear any of you, but you can all hear me. Good, good. Okay. So I think we'll go with that as our plan. I'm going to start out with a white and yellow. Just white and yellow. Because we gotta put in our lantern where our lantern goes. And this is gonna be this is almost gonna be like Bob Ross, because I'm getting you know what, I'm still having issues here on my end. Are you getting any weird sounds? Okay.
Yes, it sounds so weird, and also there's no issue what you're getting from this angle. Do you think maybe if you sign out
Yeah.
and get that in again? Because
Yeah,
I
let me
was
try
getting
that.
really fine.
I'm gonna sign out and come back. I'm assigning Crystal as the new host. All right, I know you folks on Facebook are being very patient, and I'm really sorry. My account, go away, meetings, join. All right, can you folks hear me?
A little bit better, a little bit better. The video's better.
Video's better?
It's still breaking up.
Okay. Well, this may be the best we get tonight. I don't know. And because it could be on the system, and it could be with the computer, it could be the Wi-Fi. It's hard to tell what it is. So I have white paint and I have yellow paint. I'm going to take a mix of that to make a fairly light, very, very pale color. And blend that out. And I'm actually using an old canvas that I had painted over, and it's still, the white paint is still a little bit wet on it.
So what are you doing?
Can you see? So I'm just putting in a very pale yellow color through here. And you can kind of pull that out into the open area. As if you think around any lamp, there's always kind of a halo. Okay. So what's going to happen is that this is a bright light shining in a darkness. Right? We all need that once in a while. We all need a bright light to shine in the darkness, show us where we are. So, I'm now going to come out to the outside edge, and I'm just going to paint a very, very dark color. I'm going to start at the darkest end of that. I'm going to start with a blue. I've got a blue. So take some of that over there, and take some of my magenta over there. And to that, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. Now, my mix immediately turned green. That means I want to add a little bit more red. Because what will happen is that red and green cancel each other and will begin to give you a neutral color all the way up to potentially black. That's the magic, is you can get black out of mixing three colors. So it's not necessarily shooting for black. If you were going to paint this using black, I would say that what you do is take black and blue and red, your magenta. So it's like a purpley black. Now this is actually going to work out really well for me. I have, as I said, I've got the wet white paint on my canvas, and so it's actually going to change the color that I have, my blue, as I go. It's going to mix a little bit, and it's going to make that change. It's one of the big things, and it's you see it when you look at nature, is that things are not actually smooth or even very much of the time. There are some things that are kind of smoother than others. You know, a clear blue sky is very, very smooth, but it's also not singular. It changes over the entire breadth of it. It's just that it does it so subtly that we don't necessarily notice it easily. but we see that in almost any area that really nature and the world around us is all filled with variation. It's varied every place. So by adding in variation in a painting, you begin to suggest the way that nature works. And you can see this in, there's a watercolor style that a lot of people really enjoy. It's very, very quick, very simplified watercolor style, very runny and loose, and like puddles of murky colors that mix and blend with each other. It's really very beautiful. And people who do it well, it's really is quite a thing. And that what that tries to show is the way that kind of the way that nature works. That there's this blending of multicolors. I've said this before. My professor in college, Bob Newman, he was almost obsessed with variation, and for him, he would paint shapes all over a canvas, and every one of them would be a different color, or he would apply paint over a whole canvas. It was all black, but there were no two blacks on there that was the same black, and I think the reason that he liked that is that there's a dimension of our experience with nature and the world around us that says that is in fact how things are, that there's variation everywhere. If you think about this, how many colors can we really see? There's I'd say this a lot. There's the true color. There was high color and there was true color. True color was what came out in computers shortly after Windows kind of made it on the scene. We wound up with better and better color resolution on computers, and they went to a system of 256 levels of gray, of black, of red, yellow, and magenta. Or it was actually CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. The CMYK system gives you, if you multiply 256 times 256 times 256, it gives you over 16 million colors. That's what a computer screen can generate, 16 million colors. And the eye can actually see more than that. And there's that much variation. You think 16.5 million colors on a screen. What would you even do with that many colors? How can you even see them? But what happens is that the eye sees it. The brain sees it. It might not tell you that it's seeing it because it's actually giving you just the information you need. But the reality is that it's there. We have the same thing in music. It's actually kind of interesting. There's now a resurgence in audiophiles appreciating turntables, vinyl and turntables, and all of that. People want to listen to music on turntables because the sound is warmer. The sound is more organic. The sound is actual. It's an actual vibration created by an actual signal on an actual album. It's not a mechanized, mechanical, digital thing. And there are a lot of people who are really convinced that they hear a big difference in this. That it's worth investing in these older equipment things because it actually does make a difference. They say that when you listen to a good drummer, there's real drummers that drum on drums. They sound like they are right on all the time. Like they're perfect. Their beats are perfect. You listen to a really, really good drummer and you think, okay, well, they're they're hitting every single note right on time. But actually, that's not the case. There's subtle differences in the timing between a real person and computer generated music sound. Um, beatbox and stuff like that. Those are not the same. And so it does make a difference. All of this variation here, I don't know if you can see what's going on in this background now. There's tons of variation. I'm actually now going over it with I wet my brush and I'm dragging back and forth over here to get the variations in there a little more. The one we did last week, Jody liked it so much she wanted to hang it up on our porch. So that's out on our porch, this beach. And she said if this one comes out good, she'll probably hang this one out there too. Our summer area, kind of nice place to go hang out. So we had excitement today. Grace pooped out a staple. That was not a fun thing. Dogs are not supposed to eat staples, but she did. And so she went into the vet, had a little x-ray, see if she had any more staples in her. No more staples. She does have a couple of rocks though. They said they'll pass, that's normal. It seems to me from this side that I'm not hearing the same interference I was hearing earlier. Is that the case? Is it better? Good, okay. Excellent. So I'm going to continue to just kind of blend in here a little bit more. So I've gotten quite a bit in already. We have in 2 kinds of parsnips, 2 kinds of carrots, golden beets, dill, cilantro, bush beans, 2 different kinds of bush beans, short snap peas and tall snap peas, rutabagas, kohlrabi, turnips, radishes. I think that may be it. After we get back, we're going to take a couple days off, and then when we come back, we're going to get the rest of it all in. Oh, we got potatoes in too, and I think I did actually see some potatoes starting to pop up. Okay. Yeah, tomorrow Jody and I are going up to Moultonborough so that I can paint at the lake. I need some time to go paint. Going out and painting like at dawn, and that's one of my favorite times. I love to go out first thing in the morning and paint. Let's see. It's harder and harder as you get into the summer, the early part of the summer, this time of the year. The mornings are pretty early. Getting up for sunrise is a real challenge. Late in the summer, it's not as bad. It's actually, it actually makes a big difference. I mean, because right now, you really got to be, it's almost 4:30. I mean, to get up and out and to be someplace ready to paint for sunrise, really, I got to be almost up and ready to go at 4:30. So that's a challenge. That one's hard. That's why it's nice when we go places, when we go away for any, for a little time. That's usually when I get to do that. All right, so my next step here is some branches. And if you've ever seen the Japanese sort of style, the trees that look like they're bonsai'd, or they're very irregular. They're the cherry trees. It's not just them. There's the right redbud. The redbud, which is a little later in the season, has that same kind of quality of the angular branches. It's a feature on some kinds of trees. Oaks actually get a similar branching as well. They get that same kind of sort of herky-jerky branching. So I've just mixed, again, a very dark, it's kind of a purpley color, again, just really pretty dark. And I'm going to come off the top. And I'm just going to bring the first piece of branch down. And then from there, this branch is going to kind of meander off up there. And I don't know if you saw that, it's hard to see it on here, but it kind of moves around. It's not just a straight branch. And it's one of the nice things about, one of the interesting things about these, when you have the apple trees, you can also see the same thing, where you have these, the sharp angles, and it really, with the softness of the blossoms that are going to go on, those angles really kind of make a nice effect.
You're breaking it up really badly.
Oh, I'm breaking up again. Okay, I can hear it. Now I'm going to try plugging in since I don't think that was the problem, I'm going to see if this makes any difference now. I'm just putting in some branching here. So I've gone over this and done it in dark. And now I'm going to put in some highlight. So I'm going to have that, use basically that same color, but just with a little bit of white added to it along the edge up here to give it a little dimension. You could even almost use just straight white. If the branch is still wet, it'll blend with it, and you get this kind of effect. Along parts of this, the highlight has to be on the bottom edge because it's catching the light from the lantern. So there's some places along here where you get that. I like the weeping cherries. The weeping cherries are really beautiful. We almost have a weeping thing on there. All right, so I'm gonna put in where the lantern is. Now the lantern doesn't fill all of the yellow space that we created. Some of it is halo. What I'm first going to do is mix a color, again, close to black or black. This is where you might actually want to use black if you have black. Because it is the starkness of that contrast would work very well. I have my deep dark color in here. What I'm going to do is think of this as kind of a barrel shape. So one side and the other side. Almost like hugs, when you do hugs on, as emojis. That kind of thing. One hug. It's a one hug thing. And we're going to put a cap on the thing. Just like so. Still picking up too much of my white from underneath, but I'm going to fill that in. And it may be that your area is a little bit wet for this process. There are some ways to deal with that. You can just kind of deal with it and then come back over it and go over it again. That's usually what I do. It's often the easiest way to deal with things. It's a little ring on the top there. And then it gets a bottom. The bottom is really just two rounded lines down here. And we got a little tassel that comes down. This is one I found online. I thought this one looked pretty interesting. And then I'm going to do like a mesh. The less you worry about this kind of thing, the better. Just kind of suggest it. Often that actually looks better than if you try to go back and make it look perfect. Yeah, I'm going to need to go back over these lines later because I picked up too much paint. And that's something that can happen when you're working on a painting. If you go back into an area that wasn't ready, you can pick up paint or, you know, start having blending that you didn't want. Sometimes it just means you have to wait. That's one of the hard things, dealing with that waiting. So now what I'm doing is I'm going through and putting in some shadows on the top sides of the branch. And then we need a something to hang from the tree. And so we need our rope. I put a rope on there. I'm figuring it's a rope. Could be a chain. If you want to take the time to put a chain on there, that'd be cool. And then we need blossoms. That's the big thing. We need blossoms in there. Look nice. And for blossoms, I am taking the magenta and white, mixing them into a pretty pale pink. And what we're going to do is start off up here couple places here we're going to put in, we're actually going to do your actual flowers. And the cherry blossom, I believe, is the four-petal. So you just do your four petals. You don't need to put in, and it doesn't need to be every branch that has actual painted petals on it. If you do this in a couple places around the canvas, particularly in places of interest, like here I'm doing it right next to the lantern. Do some up here. The pink is varied each time. It's a little pinker, a little whiter. I think some of these need to be even just a little bit bigger. I gotta stand back so I can see what I'm looking at now. I think we're getting close here. I'm putting in a little bit of some white edges of the blossoms here that face towards the lantern, so we have a little more highlight there. Now, if you want to, you can even put in like little, you could go inside the flowers that you did paint and put in little little middles of them, pistils and stamens and such. Depends on how big they are in relation to everything else. If something's small, you don't really put them in, but if you have a cherry blossom that's filling half of the canvas, it's really good to you'd probably do that. Put some highlights up in here too. Pink as pink could be down here. Just one more little bit. I wanted to now I'm going to go back inside the lantern with just a little bit of white. And just a couple little spots for highlights. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. I'm happy I did that. Don't do that. Anyway. So, that is the painting. What do you folks think?
Could you move it closer to the camera?
I want mine to look like yours.
And you could see from here, you could do all kinds of other stuff with that, the basic idea. Mute cam there.
Are you gonna have this next Tuesday, or will you be away?
I'm actually leaving tomorrow. We'll be back Friday, and so I'll be here. And I think we'll do any requests for next week. Anybody have any requests for a painting?
I like it all.
Yeah, and then I think we may take a little bit of a break. And what I may do is invite you all to join me on Facebook Live in my studio. I may paint from my studio, like just work on my own paintings, and let have people visit me while I'm painting. So that could be fun. Let's see. So there we have it.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Yeah, it was a quick one, I guess. It was. I didn't realize that. And I hope you have fun. Oh, look at that! That's beautiful. It's the blending in that becomes a challenge, but you can keep going over that. So I think I will sign off and say good night and good evening and have a good week. And next week I'll have paintings from the lake to show you.
We'll have a trip.
Thank you. It should be fun. I need to get away for a little bit.
I think we all do right now.
That's right. So have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you, you too.
What do you think, honey? Oh, I've got to. So I got to say goodbye to you folks too, and have a good evening.